So let's talk about the famous leader of the Jewish people. Who is the famous leader that is the most well-known as leading the Jewish people? It's Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. So if we look at our well-known Moses and follow his story a little bit, we see certain things that the Torah is trying to bring out about leadership and about the path that we need to follow if we want to develop ourselves into leaders. This is the guy. This is him. Is he tall? Is he wealthy? Is he well spoken? Does he look good? The answer is no. This is one of the greatest leaders of all time. So if we look into the text, we see in Exodus or Shmos, chapter 2, verse 11, we see that it says that Moshe went out to his brothers. Moshe v'yetze el echav v'yar b'sivlo sam, and he saw their burdens. And it's interesting that Rashi says here, the commentator Rashi says that he saw their burdens means he gave his own eyes and hearts to their distress. He really felt their burdens. It wasn't just that he saw the people who are in trouble, he really felt them as if it was his own. So V'yar b'sivlo sam means that he really felt them as if they were his. And the first leadership quality that the whole of the Torah is outlining, out of all the qualities, I'm sure if we sat together, we'd come up with a list of leadership qualities that are legitimate and real and needed as leaders. But the first one that the Torah brings up and shows and points out is empathy, which is so interesting because in this day and age, it's not so clear that empathy is the thing that you need, right? We see power, we see prestige, we see influence, we see someone who's a good speaker, there's all sorts of other things, but we don't see empathy. And so believe it or not, this is the first thing. He saw an Egyptian man striking a Hebrew man of his brothers. This is the next idea, right? The next pasuk. He saw an Egyptian man striking a Jewish man of his brothers, and he turned this way and that. And he saw that there was no man. So he struck down the Egyptian and hid him in the sand, right? That's the next verse here. V'yar ish mitzri, makeh ish ivri me'achav. So what does it mean there was no one about? It was a workplace. There were hundreds of people anywhere. He looked this way and that and he saw no one was about. Doesn't really make sense. Do you have an idea about maybe what that's hinting to? That he looked this way and that and he didn't see anyone. And it's obvious that that's not correct literally. So here the Torah is hinting to a deeper idea, like anything when something doesn't seem to make sense on the surface. So if we think about it and ask questions, it hints to a deeper reality that we're meant to learn from that asking and from that reflection. So if you say, well, who was not around? It was really that there was no one out there to help a fellow Jew. There was no righteous person that was going to jump in. So Moses stepped up. And he stepped up to the plate. And there's an ethics of our fathers that says, in a place where there is no man, strive to be a man. Strive to be a person. What does that mean? In a place where there's no one doing anything, it's your obligation to jump in. Many of you had that same idea with when you either submitted for the Innovation Incubator, when you stepped up to become a regional ambassador or a campus ambassador for Olami, that we're so in need of being advocates and ambassadors and representatives of Judaism, and then you went out and you decided to make a difference, to engage other Jews, to educate other Jews, to inspire other Jews. And obviously you have some of that quality in you because you're here. So Moses knew that in a place where there's no one taking responsibility that he has to. You know, there was that famous study, the Kitty Genovese study many years ago, where there was a woman being assaulted in a courtyard and everyone else heard it and they all assumed someone else would take responsibility and call the police, and no one called. And it's like a sad reflection of our society that we can even live in a situation like that where no one steps in. They assume someone else is going to do it. It's not a leadership quality. It's not a human quality. And we've gotten to a place where we become numb to that. You know, I had a student once who fell down the stairs at a major station, a train station. And she fell down the stairs, and it was quite a fall. And she said the thing that hurt her the most, she was in quite a lot of pain, was that no one stopped to ask her how she was, if she was okay. She tumbled down the stairs. Not one person stopped and said, "Are you okay?" She said that hurt far more than the pain of the fall. So when it comes to us, I think it's important to ask ourselves, how can I take my empathy to the next level? How can I take my sense of responsibility to the next level? Where can I step up even when I don't feel like doing it, when it's needed? Do I answer the call of other people's need? When I was a kid, I used to enjoy playing a game that I didn't really appreciate what kind of game that was until I got a lot older, and I don't know where it came from. I don't know where I got it from. But I remember I would be annoyed with someone, and someone would irritate me. I was like a teenager, and I would enjoy, in my head, switching my perspective and imagining that I was their mother. And how would I feel about them if I was their mother? And I thought it was fun to feel the different feelings I felt inside. If I imagined I was their mother looking at the same exact thing that used to really irritate me, then as if I was just myself in their regular day-to-day life. And my whole feelings would change for them based on if I could shift myself into pretending I'm their mother for a second. It was wild. So looking back now, that's a kind of a practicing empathy. And I think it was helpful to be able to do that. I wish I could do it as well now. I'm not sure if I can. But we see that this is a very important quality to develop in ourselves. Okay. So what happened next with Moses? We follow just the last part of this story. Moses ended up leaving Egypt and going to Midian because he was going to be killed by Pharaoh for killing this Egyptian. So when's the next time we see Moses? It's the burning bush scene. What was Moses doing after running away from a prominent position of power in the palace? He was a shepherd for his father-in-law's sheep, Yisro. He ended up going from the top position of power to being like a shepherd. And the Midrash tells us that it was at this moment that he was worried about a lone sheep. A sheep had wandered off, and he followed it when it strayed away from the herd. And that was the moment that God appeared to him. Doesn't make any sense. He went from a prominent position of power to being like a nobody shepherd with not like, okay, so you got a job and you're doing data entry, like big deal. It's not a big, doesn't matter. It's the moment when he cared about this single lone lost sheep wandering off from the flock, that was the moment God chose to appear to him. And this tells us something very deep. It was Moses' humility and sensitivity and compassion that made him worthy to be this level of leader. God says that a person who pities even a helpless beast will surely show compassion for an entire nation. And this was the definitive moment for God to choose him. And it's when he appeared in the burning bush. So these are some very, very powerful lessons for us to think about and internalize. That how is my humility? Do I feel that people should serve me, or do I feel I should serve the people? Honestly, honesty is your best friend. People are scared of being honest with themselves. But if you're not honest with yourselves, you can never grow. So with this whole JLFX course, I invite you and encourage you to be really, really honest with yourself, not to judge. Let's get rid of judgment. No judgment for yourself or for others here. Safe space to be able to think openly, reflect, share, and be able to grow together. And you can ask yourself, what was my motivation for doing this or that one day or the other day when you're going about your day? Ask yourself, why did I do that? What was my motivation? Be honest with yourself. And don't judge. Just say, okay, it's not who I want to be. I need to work on it. But we see his humility and his sensitivity and compassion made him worthy of a leader. How is my compassion? When I get annoyed with someone, when I judge them, am I able to let go? Am I able to see them as a whole person? Am I able to see the bigger picture? Am I able to imagine what it would be like if I was in that position? These are the important principles of the foundation of Jewish leadership. Very contrary to what we see in the world today. Today we see many, many people in power, but we don't see leaders. And coming up in a minute, you'll see some assignments to do during your week. and some reflection questions. So please take the time and answer the questions honestly and try and reflect and think in a real way. And I look forward to hearing from you and sharing some of this with you on our webinar when we meet as well. And we'll be in touch. Have a great day.